Call Cleve Atlanta Real Estate Show on Talk Radio 640 WGST. Now, here's Cleve Gaddis.
We've got a special guest this segment, John Birchfield, who is with Brand Mortgage. John makes it his mission to guide each home buyer step by step through the entire loan process. And we got this standing ovation. So the buyers are educated and confident in the mortgage options available and can make the best decisions along the way. It just won't stop for John Birchfield of Brand Mortgage. I love it. John can be reached by calling 678-226-7887. John, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Is that an adequate introduction for you?
That did pretty good. I'm still a little stumped by William Bailey. That is definitely not a rock and roll name.
No, we did an experiment in a meeting the other day, and let's do this for you. This is how you would determine your name, John, if you were going to be a famous movie star.
Uh-oh.
First of all, I would like the name of your first pet.
Sergeant.
All right, then I would like your mother's maiden name.
Die.
So the name of your name, if you were a famous rock star, would be Sergeant Die. And see, now that would be a cool, and it works for almost everybody. It works for almost everybody. Hey, I want to talk about something very specific, and thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Most people who want to qualify for a mortgage, who want to get a mortgage to buy a house, they're afraid they're going to get turned down. And I think they're afraid that there's some wizard or something behind the curtains who's pulling these magic cords to determine whether or not someone gets approved for a loan. But the truth of the matter is that there's very specific underwriting criteria. You either qualify or you don't qualify. And what I'd like you to do is throw back the curtains and tell us, so anybody that's listening who wants to buy a home who's not sure whether or not they can qualify, they'll know whether or not they can qualify before they ever even call their lender. Would you do that for us?
You bet. That's a great question, and you're absolutely right. That's the question I get most, is folks calling and just thinking, well, there's got to be no way I can get this, or who's going to make the decision. And you're right. There's a specific set of criteria, and it's just going down the checklist. Either you got it or you don't, and it's much easier than most people assume. The big things we're going to be looking at is down payment. So you have a little bit of cash to put into the deal, usually not as much as people think. We're going to look at affordability, or what we call your debt-to-income ratios. Do you make enough money each month to repay the debt and pay your other expenses that you have?
So hold on just one second, John. So do you mind if we go back and talk about the down payment one first and hit these kind of things kind of in order?
Yeah, I love it.
Well, if you've just joined us, you're listening to the Call Cleve Atlanta Real Estate Show. We've got John Birchfield on the phone with us. John is with Brand Mortgage. He is our preferred mortgage provider. He has the heart of a teacher. You will not do yourself wrong to give him a call. He can be reached at 678-226-7887. Again, 678-226-7887. So first you mentioned, hey, in order to know whether or not you can qualify for a loan, you have to know whether or not you have enough money. What is that amount? I mean, what is the minimum somebody can put down?
There are programs with as little as 3% down. We have some with 3.5% down. And even more than that, we have opportunities to partner with different down payment assistance organizations that can help give you that funding. So lots of different options and opportunities to overcome that part of the obstacle.
Okay, so you can get a conventional loan for as little as 3% down, so your PMI expense is not totally crazy. You can get an FHA loan for 3.5% down if you maybe have a little bit of a credit blip or you have a higher debt-to-income ratio. That might be the option for you. And you can get zero down payment loans if you make less than what? Let's say $60,000 household income. Is that kind of a good number? So if you make less than $60,000 a year, you might be able to qualify to get some help with your down payment.
Yeah, you bet.
Perfect. Now, the second thing you mentioned, and if you've just joined us, you're listening to the Call Cleve Atlanta Real Estate Show. We've got John Birchfield with Brand Mortgage on the phone. And we're talking about how can you find out as a listener whether or not you would qualify for a mortgage? So the next thing you mentioned was debt to income. What on earth does that mean, John?
What that is we take your gross monthly income, and typically speaking, we want to cut that number in half. And when we cut it in half, we want that number to be able to pay your existing expenses, so student loans, credit card debt, and car payments.
So you make $4,000 a month or $48,000 a year. You don't want to spend any more. You don't want to have commitments that exceed any more than 50% of that number.
That's right.
Okay.
Typically speaking.
Okay.
So if we take 50%, that would be $2,000. Pay your car payment, pay your student loan, pay your credit card. Whatever's left would be what we could allocate towards a proposed mortgage payment.
Got it. So if you know what your bills are, add them all together. If you want to know how much borrowing room you have, just take your monthly income, divide it by 2, subtract the existing bills you have, and whatever that number is that's left over, that's the amount of mortgage you can qualify for. Now, I know we're being general here, but that's the way it works.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Cool. What else? I stopped you. I interrupted you before you were going to the third thing, so let's move to the third thing.
The third one's credit. We're going to take a look at your credit. We're going to hopefully have a credit score of, around 600 or so. The better the credit, obviously, the more opportunities open up for you, more program options you'll have available to you. But generally speaking, a 600 credit score, we want to see that you paid your bills on time for the last 12 months or so. Don't have any public records or judgments or things like that might present a roadblock for us.
So, John, if you get 10 mortgage applications, what percentage of those applications have credit scores that are adequate?
Probably at least 9, I would say.
So, I mean, it's the overwhelming majority of people who are applying for loans can get a loan. If you've just joined us, you're listening to the Call Cleve Atlanta Real Estate Show. We've got John Birchfield of Brand Mortgage on the line with us, and we're basically pulling back the curtain on what you need to do in order to qualify for a mortgage. John can be reached by calling 678-226-7887. If you need to get a refinance or you need money to purchase a home, John is the man you should call, hands down. So, John, minimum 3% down payment, although if your household income is less than $60,000, and it can be a little bit more than that based on the number of people in the house, right?
Right, yeah.
You can get actually into a loan for no money down. 3%, you can get into a conventional loan, 3.5% FHA. You've basically said take your monthly income, divide it in 2, subtract your existing monthly payments, and that'll be the amount of the monthly payments you can qualify for. And then you've said you need to be at a 600 plus on a credit score. So what documents, in addition to this, what in addition to these requirements, what documents is somebody going to need to have ready to provide you to prove all of this stuff?
Good question. You should expect to provide a month worth of your pay stubs, the last 2 years of W-2 forms from your employer, so we can see a history of earnings as well as what employers provided those earnings. And then we usually want to see your most recent year of tax returns, and your most recent month of bank statements, so we can see how you manage your money and see that we source any money that might be needed for the transaction.
Pay stubs, 2 years W-2s, tax returns, and bank account statements for the last few months. John, as always, we appreciate you being a guest on the Call Cleve Atlanta Real Estate Show. You, again, are our preferred mortgage provider. That is so easy to say. I don't know why I'm getting tongue-tied today. John can be reached by calling 678-226-7887.
This is Call Cleve Atlanta Real Estate Show on Talk Radio 640 WGST.